Greetings, fellow breeders. It's great to have you back in this space where we have some straight talk about the reality of our passion, technical and profitable poultry farming. If you are here today, it's because you love your birds, but also because you understand that, whether you have 5 hens in a city backyard or 50 on a small homestead, every bird must be efficient. Not long ago, we had a very deep conversation about the sire factor, that video, where we explained why a mediocre rooster is, quite literally, financial suicide for your project. It was a total success, and many of you wrote to me with a fascinating question. If the rooster is 50%, what happens to the other 50? When is the exact moment to retire a hen? And how do I know if my star sire still has something to contribute? Today, we are going to answer that with a strategy I call the golden clock. We're talking to the farmer who meticulously cares for their birds, and to the city enthusiast who has to optimize every square inch of their patio. We aren't going to waste time talking about large industrial houses with thousands of birds, because on a small scale, a single hen's mistake doesn't get lost in the crowd. One hen's error is felt directly in your pocket and on your table. We'll focus first on the silent protagonist, the hen, and then we'll revisit the figure of the rooster as that anchor that keeps your project afloat, using fresh terminology to reinforce what we've learned without being repetitive. Get ready, because today we are going deeper than ever before. Many people make the mistake of starting with the rooster, but today we start with her, the hen. Do you know why? Because the hen is the factory. The rooster provides the design, the architectural blueprint, and the elite genetics. But the hen is the machine that processes the input and delivers the final product, the egg and the future chick. For us, small-scale breeders, the hen is an investment of time, feed, and a lot of faith. Biologically, we must understand that a hen is born with a finite number of ova. They have an internal counter that starts ticking from day one. In our backyard poultry setups, the first year of laying is pure glory. Firm eggs, strong shells, and a frequency that makes us proud. During this period, her endocrine system works at maximum capacity, extracting calcium from her own medullary bones to deposit it into each shell with astonishing precision. However, between 18 and 24 months, something happens that many breeders, out of pure sentiment, prefer to ignore. The hen enters a natural physiological decline. Her estrogen levels begin to fluctuate, and her intestinal absorption of nutrients decreases. For you, watching your budget, this means the FCR, feed conversion ratio, skyrockets. That hen that used to give you 1 egg for every 4.2 ounces of feed suddenly starts eating 5.3 ounces, and only lays every 2 or 3 days. In a small flock of 10 hens, if you have 3 that have passed their peak, those 3 are literally eating the profits of the other 7. As a small producer, you cannot afford to have retirees eating feed at gold plate prices, especially since feed currently represents 70% to 80% of your production costs. This is where we must discuss a process that confuses many: molting. Around 14 to 16 months, a hen naturally stops laying to renew her feathers. Many breeders wait 3 months for the hen to start laying again, but technically, for a profitable project, this is a mistake. During molting, the hen spends all her protein on manufacturing feathers and none on eggs. Unless she is an elite breeder from whom you need specific chicks, this is the time to cull her. The second laying cycle, after the molt, never reaches the peak of the first. The eggs will be larger, yes, but the shells will be more fragile and the frequency much lower. In the golden clock, molting is the bell that warns you that this hen's time in your production line is up. How can you know it's time to renew without looking at a calendar? You have to learn to observe the product and the anatomy of the bird. You don't need to be a vet, you just need to sharpen your technical eye. Shell quality. If you start seeing paper-thin shells, rough textures, large pores, or deformed eggs, it's a clear sign that the hen's shell gland is exhausted. Calcium is no longer being deposited uniformly. Pigmentation, the bleaching. High-production hens bleach or lose the yellow color in their legs, beak, and eye ring. If you see an old hen with bright, beautiful yellow legs, it's because she isn't sending those pigments to the egg yolk. In other words, she isn't laying. The vent and pelvic bones. A hen that is actively laying has a moist, wide, and pale-colored vent. If you measure with your fingers the distance between the pelvic bones and only 1 or 2 fingers fit, the hen is closed. In an active layer, 3 or 4 fingers should fit. Abdominal fat. An old hen tends to accumulate internal fat. If she feels heavy or squishy in the rear, it's because she is no longer transforming feed into protein. Instead, she's storing it as fatty waste, which can also cause prolapses. Comb and gaze. A hen in her prime has a blood red, turgid, and warm comb. When her gaze dulls and the comb permanently shrinks and pales, the machine is stopping. This is where the shrewd breeder beats the industrial one. Renewal isn't done by changing the whole coop at once. That's a rookie mistake that leaves you without eggs or income for months. We use rotation by thirds. Divide your total capacity into 3 generational groups. 1. The elite tier, pullets, birds from 0 to 6 months preparing for their first cycle. They are your future investment. 2. The production tier, mature layers, birds from 6 to 18 months. They are at their peak efficiency and pay the bills for the entire farm. 3. The exit tier, seniors, birds from 18 to 24 months. They are still laying, but their quality is starting to decline. For this system to work, the management of the replacement pullets must be impeccable. You cannot feed them the same as the adults. During their growth, they need a starter or grower feed with 18% to 20% protein to develop their skeletal structure and internal organs. If you give them layer feed, high in calcium, before 18 weeks, you can cause irreversible kidney damage. The key is pre-lay feed during the 2 weeks before they drop their first egg. This nutritional management ensures that when the exit tier retires, the young birds come in with such force that they immediately compensate for the lost production. When the seniors reach 2 years, they leave the system. Their meat, while firmer, has high culinary value for traditional stews and broths, allowing you to recover part of your initial investment. Simultaneously, the group of pullets begins laying, keeping your daily egg flow perfectly stable. This ensures you never have a production gap, and your flock's average age remains young and efficient. If you are someone who raises your own chicks, don't choose your replacement pullet just for her color. Choose the daughter of the hen that was the most precocious, the one that laid first and never got sick. This is the genetic independence we always talk about. You are creating a maternal line specifically adapted to your climate, your backyard, and your own microorganisms. A hen that survives and produces well in your environment is worth more than any catalog bird that doesn't know your reality. Look for females with good bone structure, a calm but alert temperament, and those that maintained healthy plumage even during peak laying months. Once you have this production engine well oiled, it's time to look back at the boss of the coop. Let's talk about the rooster, but let's see him now as the proven sire. We already established in the previous video that the rooster is 50% of the genetic load and that a mediocre male destroys years of hard work. But on a small farm, the rooster isn't a disposable object. He is your quality insurance. Unlike the hen, which suffers brutal metabolic wear from laying nearly every day, the rooster has a much longer reproductive lifespan. A high-quality sire, an improver, can be the head of your coop for 3 or even 4 years if he has impeccable nutritional management. He is your anchor. If that sire has already proven that his offspring are healthy, grow fast, and have good vigor, don't change him just out of curiosity. Consistency is the key to small-scale success. However, for that sire to last 4 years, you must understand that his needs are different from the females. A common mistake is giving layer feed, loaded with calcium, to the rooster. Excess calcium damages the male's kidneys and lowers his fertility. Ideally, the rooster should have access to a more balanced grain or be supplemented with vitamin E and selenium to keep his sperm count high. In addition to nutrition, we must monitor the mounting index. On a small farm, the rooster has a massive responsibility. You must observe if he is actually covering all the hens. Sometimes a sire develops a preference for certain females and forgets others, leaving you with unfertilized eggs. A proven sire maintains order, prevents fights between hens, and ensures that 90% of the eggs are suitable for incubation. If you see the rooster becoming too aggressive, or, conversely, very apathetic, his role as an anchor is being lost, and it's time to evaluate his replacement. So when do you retire a proven sire? You must watch for these red flags. Low fertility. If you put 10 eggs in the incubator and only 4 hatch, and your hens are young, your rooster's fertility count is dropping. Mobility and weight. A very old rooster becomes heavy or develops arthritis. If you see him walking with difficulty, or if he no longer crows with the same frequency, his libido is falling. Physical damage to females. An old, heavy rooster can injure the backs of young hens, causing wounds that attract cannibalism. But the most critical factor for renewing the rooster is the one we mentioned before, the inbreeding trap. If you are using the strategy of renewing your hens with your own pullets, daughters of that rooster, that is the exact moment your rooster must rotate. Not because the rooster is bad, but because his cycle in that specific flock has ended. Crossing a father with his daughters systematically weakens the immune system of the next generation and reduces the size of the birds. This is where many breeders lose years of work. By not wanting to part with a pretty rooster, they end up with a flock of small, sickly birds. What I recommend is a technical exchange. Look for another serious breeder who has a sire of equal or better quality than yours and make a trade. This introduces new blood without spending extra money. The magic happens when you pair that new sire, a purebred or improver, with that group of young, vigorous hens that you selected yourself. You are joining the genetic experience of the male with the biological strength of the young female, creating a genetic surge that will elevate your farm's quality year after year. For the city breeder, this is vital. You probably can't have 3 roosters due to noise or space. You can only have 1. Therefore, that single sire must be your pride, and your hens must be athletes in constant renewal. In a confined space like a patio or garage, there is no room for waste. Every bird that doesn't produce is space you are taking away from one that could. The cleanliness and order of your quail or chicken cages depend on having only productive animals. This strategy optimizes your budget because you aren't buying external birds all the time. You are investing intelligently at the right moments. In an urban environment, stress management is the X factor. Birds in the city are exposed to noise, night lights, and limited space. A young group adapts better to these conditions than old birds already carrying the wear and tear of 2 years of life. That's why rotation by thirds is the best tool for the urban poultry farmer. It allows you to always have birds with a 100% immune system, capable of resisting any environmental change without stopping production. For this plan to work, you need to keep records. Don't rely on memory. Note when each lot entered, how many eggs you collect per day, and when you last dewormed the rooster. A breeder who doesn't keep records is a breeder who guesses, and in technical poultry farming, guesses are expensive. Observe social behavior. A well-rotated group is a harmonious group. When you introduce the new replacement pullets, always do it at night, or use a divider for the first few days to avoid the stress of hierarchical pecking. A smooth transition means the pullets will start laying sooner. Remember, every day a pullet is delayed in starting production because of stress is money leaving your pocket in the form of feed that isn't being returned as eggs. Raising chickens isn't just about throwing corn and picking up eggs, it's about understanding the rhythm of life in your coop. It's knowing that nature has its times, and our job is to manage them so the project is self-sustaining. Today we've learned that the hen has a productivity clock that we must respect so our pockets don't suffer. And we've reaffirmed that the rooster is that architectural blueprint that guides the future of our lineage, but he also must know when to step aside to let the genetics move forward. It doesn't matter if you have 5 hens or 50. If you apply this rotation, if you select your replacements with technical criteria, and if you keep your anchor sire only while he is fertile and there is no risk of inbreeding, you will be ahead of the vast majority of breeders. You will be practicing professional poultry farming on the scale you decided to have, proving that profitability doesn't depend on the size of the farm, but on the intelligence of the breeder. Technical poultry farming is an art based on numbers, but executed with passion. When you achieve that balance between biological respect for your birds and the economic discipline of your business, that is when you truly become a master breeder. Thank you for being here, for commenting, and for growing this community of enthusiasts who don't settle for the basics. If this video gave you that technical clarity you were looking for to optimize your backyard or patio, you know what to do. Leave a like, subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive, and share this information with that friend who still has 4-year-old hens waiting for a miracle that isn't coming. To your success, fellow breeder. Until next time.